Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I am back with 3 cards I created using the Spellbinders large die set for the month of July. And this has this really cute stocking that you can stuff with lots of goodies and put some greenery behind that. So I want to give you guys some different ideas. I'm going to be making some cards using the elements that were included in this, but for the first 2 at least, not using the actual stocking. So for this one, I have pulled in some of the mistletoe. I have die cut that from 2 different colors of green. This is Jelly Bean Green from MFT and Cactus from Stamp Market. I've layered those together just to give some dimension. And then I've cut my berries out from MFT's Whipped Cream, and my background is MFT's Red Hot cardstock. So I grabbed some twine here from my stash, and I'm just wrapping that around. I added some ATG on either side of the back of my panel, and I'm just sort of wrapping this around, crossing it over a little bit to give it some interest. I'm going to hang my mistletoe from that. So I've got 4 pieces of the mistletoe here, and I'm just layering these. Again, I want to get some of the leaves in front of the others so it looks like a very natural sort of bunch of this. And then I'm going to place this up under the string. And I toyed with adding in some of the smaller pieces, but then it just felt like the bunch was sort of too big, too much. So I do end up pulling those back out. But I do like to show you guys sort of the process that I go through as I'm deciding how I want to place all of these things. So I'm going to take my art glitter glue and add that behind these to keep them in place. I don't need a ton of it, just enough. Just very carefully lifting those up, trying to keep them in place as best as I can. Now I'm going to add a little bit of glue under the stems there, and then I'm going to finish that off by adding a little knot. I'm just going to loop some of this twine up underneath. And then I'll tie that in a knot and trim off my ends. Had a little bit of sort of some frizz on the edges of that twine, which I love, but I just trimmed just a little bit of that away. So I had played around with a different few sentiments. This was cut out using the Glimmer set of the month, but I decided the white background just was not giving the look that I wanted. So I am going to end up using the stamp that came with the clear stamp set of the month, which reads Merry Christmas. So I have brought that over here to my MISTI. I'm going to stamp that out with some Versamark ink, and then I will heat emboss that using my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. I did use my anti-static powder there to make sure none of my embossing powder sticks anywhere that I don't want it. Just using a dry paintbrush here to remove any of the little excess pieces of powder that may have stuck somewhere. And then I will hit that with my heat gun. Now this was fine how it was, but I decided I wanted my Merry Christmas to be a little bit bolder. So luckily I had not moved my stamp off of my MISTI and I was able to place this down. I'm going to add some more Versamark ink to my stamp and press that once again and do a double emboss, which gave me a really, really nice thick white color on my sentiment. So don't be afraid if your sentiment isn't perfect. As long as you haven't moved your stamp from your MISTI, you will be able to add more and fill that in anywhere that might be missing something, or if you just want a bolder line. And I will repeat the same process again. I am reusing a card there. You'll see I had already stamped something on it, but decided to go a different route, so that just sort of went in my stash. This is a card base made from my Nina 110 pound cardstock. And I've added some art glitter glue to the back of my panel. I'm just going to pop that right on top there. The inside of these I'm going to leave blank for now, but I am using my Nina paper. That is my new favorite for my inserts and cards lately. Added a little ATG, press that on the inside, and I will add a sentiment closer to the time that I am actually ready to send this. And that is going to complete our first card for today. For card number 2, I am going to create a background using these adorable gingerbread men and some candy canes. I have already put these together off camera to save us a little bit of time. I did add some foam dots behind the candy canes to give them a little extra dimension. And then for my sentiment, I have used the Glimmer hot foil sentiment from this month, which is of course Merry Christmas. I stamped that on some green and then backed it with some gold foil cardstock that I had in my stash. So I'm going to get everything placed down here using some art glitter glue for the gingerbread men, and then of course the pop dots for the candy canes. The colors that I'm using are from Paper Tray Ink, Scarlet Jewel, Dark Chocolate, and from MFT Red Hot and Whipped Cream. And the green is from Stamp Market Cactus. And of course the golds is probably Spellbinders, but I keep all of my gold foil cardstock in sort of the same pouch. So it's most likely Spellbinders, but it's just a regular gold foil. I'm just holding up my sentiment. I know I want that to be in the middle, but I don't want it to cover too much of the little, goodies that I'm placing on the bottom. So I'm trying to strategically place everything to give a nice covering to the back of my cardstock. I want that to look like it's a flowing pattern. But also I want the sentiment to be in the proper place as well. I will of course add some foam dots to the back of my sentiment here. It is mostly going to cover over those two gingerbread men there, so I'm able to place some foam dots behind the entire back of this. Keep it nice and sturdy. Of course, I will go ahead and peel away the backing. And then I will place that on top. I will go ahead here and trim away the excess around the edges of my card. And then lastly, I will add my insert to the insert of my card base, adding just a little bit of ATG, and then I'll press that into place. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, we're going back to that stocking. There I'm showing you, I wanted to give this stocking a sort of knit look, so I used an embossing folder from my stash. I know this is from Park Lane. I picked it up at Joann's, but I do not have a name for it. I actually don't think those have any type of name to them. But it just sort of has a leafy or floral pattern to it, which can also sort of look like a cable knit. So that is the one that I went with. And then of course I added my red details in the loop. Keeping this stocking pretty simple, I'm gonna tuck in one of the gingerbread men and a few pieces of holly there. And once I've got this laid out, I'll very carefully add my art glitter glue behind to keep everything in place as best as I can. You will see at the bottom of this panel, I went ahead and again used that Merry Christmas sentiment. That is the sentiment that came with the Glimmer set for the month of July. It is called Glimmering Christmas Flora. And I am using the polished brass foil, which is also what came in the kit. This is a really pretty gold color. It's very similar to the gold, but it does have a slight difference to it, and I think it's a really pretty color. So as you can see, I did add a bunch of pop dots behind my stocking. I did that ahead of time, again, to save us time. Gonna peel away the backing behind all of that. And then I will very carefully press this into place. I decided here that I did not want to have the loop on the back of that stocking since so much was sort of sticking out of it. It made more sense to me that it wasn't actually hanging, so I just decided to snip that off. I really think it's probably fine either way though. I was very tempted to create a card making a background that looked like a big fireplace or a big mantle to have those stockings hanging from, but maybe when I pull this out again next time, that'll be something that I try. Adding a little glue there behind my gingerbread man, and then I decided I wanted him to pop up a little bit more, make him a little bit more prominent on the card. So just adding one little pop dot behind his head there, and then I will press that into place. There, I'm just double checking that maybe I did want that loop. I have again got a Neenah panel card base here. This is Neenah 110 pound cardstock. I'm going to add some art glitter glue to the back of my panel. Oh, and I just realized I don't think I gave you my cardstock. I am using from Stamp Market Fern and Cactus, MFT's Red Hot and Whipped Cream, and Paper Tray Ink Dark Chocolate. Most of these all have the same colors with just a few little differences added in. Gonna trim off the excess. For some reason, the panels and the card bases never seem to match perfectly for me. Of course, there I have got my Nina paper. Gonna add that insert. And that will complete card number 3. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.